Hello and welcome back to the Jules with Gem podcast. I am your host GiGi and I hope you're well. If you're new, welcome. I'm honored to have you here, and if you're returning, I'm humbled to have you back. And to all my new subbies, welcome. You are the VIPs indeed. Thank you so much for the support. I hope you can share and learn with me on this journey because it's not a destination. So I'm continuing talking about the planets, and my voice is sounding, I don't know, just a bit heavy today. I guess it just makes sense because I'll be talking about Pluto. So we all know that Pluto is just this intense, heavy planet. But before I get to that, I just wanted to talk about the planets individually because I feel a lot of the time we are given surface level definitions of the planets. For example, the sun represents individuality and creativity. However, at times we don't even know what that means because, or at least I've found definitions like these to be too vague. There are 12 signs, so individuality and creativity can be expressed in 12 different ways. So, now that we have an understanding of the signs' energies, we can now move on to understanding the energies of the planets, and then we can move on to understanding the energies of the houses. And then once we've done the houses, we can then start doing aspects. And aspects really is my favorite a part of astrology because that's where you really get to the nitty-gritty. It's where you can really see the flavors of the energies of the planets and how they influence you and your birth chart as well. So there are 10 planets, namely the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, and of course Saturn. So in your birth chart, there are 12 houses. So naturally, there will be houses in your chart that don't have any planets or that astrologers consider empty. So it's not that there are no signs on the houses, there are signs on the cusp of the houses. So basically the houses have names, like they have numbers, if you will. They are so naturally the birth chart will be made up of 12 signs because there's 12 houses. So all of the 12 signs will be in your chart. However, it's just physically impossible to have all 10 planets in all of your houses because, like I said, there's only 10 planets and 12 houses. So Pluto. Every single time I read about Pluto or I even hear about Pluto, I always feel like people are always romanticizing Pluto, or that people are always just making it out to be this planet that's like all about sex and all about things that are taboo, things that we keep hidden, our taxes, our inheritances, it being the house of extremes, it being the house of jealousy, obsession, intense emotions. Like I could basically go on and on and on and on and on. And I do admit that this bad rep has influenced me as well, to the point where I actually disliked Pluto. I disliked Pluto in my chart, especially when it came to relationships and checking synastry. So synastry is just basically two charts put together and checking how the two people influence each other or the type of energy that they make. It's like basically mixing chemicals together to see what new chemical you get from these two energies. So if we're being honest, who really wants a relationship that is riddled with all of the above themes? So intensity, obsession, jealousy, extremes, it's just, I think the more I read and the more I really wanted to understand, because remember, I also had now the ability to be more open-minded when it came to Pluto, especially when I was like, okay, I really want to talk about Pluto, but I want to be as raw as possible. I want to be as authentic as possible. And I don't want to mention all of the themes that a lot of people tend to mention about Pluto. So the more I read about Pluto is the more really I started to become more open-minded. when it came to the nature of Pluto and its influence. So whether we like it or not, we honestly need Pluto. Without its influence, we would never be able to discover really our true authentic selves. We would never really be able to discover what we're really capable of. We would never really know what our threshold is. And our threshold could be pertaining to anything. It could be pertaining to our mental threshold. It could be pertaining to our physical threshold. It could be pertaining to our mental, emotional. I'm not too sure which one of the two I'm mentioning again, but it's just all about how much you can actually take before you eventually give in. So Pluto's influence is very subtle. You can only see the changes once the trauma has happened. And from that point, it's really too late to go back or to be like, okay, no, I don't want to deal with this anymore. It's already too late, because that's just the nature of Pluto's influence. It basically destroys and destructs and brings up very uncomfortable things to the surface that you need to deal with head on. And then once you've dealt with them head on, that's when you start picking yourself apart, and then you have an opportunity to grow and rise like the phoenix out of the ashes, right? Because we're always given that analogy of the phoenix rising out of the ashes, etc., etc. So like I said, it's too late to go back. So wherever Pluto is in your chart, that will determine the intense transformations that will happen in your life. So this also applies to where Pluto is transiting, as well as the house that is transiting is where major transformation is likely to take place. So all I mean by transit, I just mean when Pluto is, where Pluto is visiting in your house at any given time. So it could be transiting your first house, it could be transiting your second house, it could be transiting any house. However, of course, the influences will be different, but the overall happening, or the overall event, will be that it's going to be transformational, no matter which way you try and cut it up, you try and dry it. It is going to be transformation all around. And I'm not even gonna lie, when I had Pluto transiting my 9th house, and my sun is also in my 9th house, so it was conjunct my Pluto, and conjunct just means that the energies were being fused together. So this energy could have worked out either way, because I usually think of conjunctions, which is just another name of an aspect, and the aspect just basically means that the energies are being fused together. So with that influence, it's like I was going particularly crazy, because a conjunction can go either way. It's like 50-50, can be really, really amazing, or it can be really, really bad, depending on, like I said, your threshold and your ability to not control situations that are beyond your control. So that's when I made a lot of drastic changes, because this was around 2017 most probably. So there were a lot of changes that were happening in my life, a lot of things that I had to face, and really, because I was in relationships that really didn't make sense at the time, and it was just really weighing heavy on me, to the point where I was unable to sleep. I was thinking a lot about finding myself and my spirituality, and I just needed to let certain things go in order for me to get to a point where I can understand myself in a spiritual sense, because I'd like to believe that I wanted to become more conscious. I wanted to become better mentally, emotionally, physically, and not even for anyone else, but just for myself, just to understand myself better. I think the biggest thing that we as people are supposed to be doing here on earth is understanding ourselves, so that we can eventually figure out what exactly is our purpose. But I digress. We have so many things going on. We have so many distractions going around. So it's really hard to try and focus on what your purpose is if you've got to pay bills, if you've got to go to work, if you have to, do all of these other bits and pieces that don't really contribute much to your soul level or your soul evolution. But I digress. I'll talk about that in future videos. But like I said, I made really drastic changes. I left a job. I left my partner at the time. I started seeking myself in a more spiritual sense. And I also got to the point where I was really filled with fear and doubt and paranoia that my biological dad would pass away. Seeing as Pluto rules death and everything, and it was conjunct my sun. So sometimes the sun in astrology, according to a lot of astrologers, the sun represents the father. So I was already like, oh my gosh. It can represent the father or like really prominent male influences in your life. So I was so paranoid. I was like, oh my gosh, this person is probably gonna die, and etc. I was really going crazy. But of course it didn't plan out how I expected it to plan out. Of course, I mean, it's Pluto, it can go either way. My dad didn't pass away, but two very prominent men in my family did. So with Pluto transiting my 9th house, it actually molded me into being the person I've become today, into the person that is currently now recording videos about astrology. So the person that I am today really had to make certain changes and accept destruction in order to be renewed, especially in that area of life of the 9th house. So basically my views on religion had to change, my views on spirituality had to change, or have gone through a really huge transition. My views on the world, on politics, on philosophy have all gone a transformation. So here's my thing though, in all honesty, I just think that Pluto really is about extreme healing. And I wanted to say extreme healing because I didn't want to just say healing, because it's not like a Virgo type of healing, which really doesn't require to change yourself to the point where you have to face certain things about yourself. And it's not a Cancer healing that is necessarily maternal in nature. This is like, I don't care what you're going through, I don't care what's happening in your life, this change is ruthless. It is literally, I'm going to dig up everything that you think you love. I'm going to dig up everything that you think is authentic, and I'm going to bulldoze it, and I'm going to show you that it is not real. It's that type of energy. And I wouldn't even akin it to Saturn, because Saturn, at least, it's not as painful. Because like I said, when we're dealing with Pluto, we're dealing with things that we hide. We're dealing with things that our intuition has been telling us for years, but we're just like, oh no, I don't think that's how I see it, or that's not the way it is. Until Pluto comes around and Pluto shows you exactly how you've been feeling it is, but you have been in denial. So when I look back at the situations that I had been in hindsight, I just realized that every single relationship, or every relationship that was put under scrutiny, just really was not as genuine as I thought it was. And Pluto being Pluto, brought up things that were happening behind closed doors, and it brought it to the light, it brought it to the surface, it brought it to my attention, and it was just very traumatic for me, because honestly, these were things that were happening right under my nose. These were things that I didn't even know were happening. And honestly, it really took a toll even on my self-confidence, my self-esteem. I really felt really stupid for some time, until, I rebuilt myself and stuff like that. And of course, I still do have moments where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I went through that. But I don't beat myself up as much about it, because I've gained so much more from the experience that, I'm not as bothered by it anymore. Like I can talk about it without, being emotional or crying. And when I say it, I just mean my experiences. I can talk about my experiences without being emotional and wanting to break down and cry. Unlike back then, when really it was even hard to open up my mouth, and just the thoughts that were going through my head, it would just be really hard for me to even speak. Really, what was happening at the time. But people that I'd loved became enemies. It was really vicious. And of course, me having Pluto in my 7th house didn't really help either, because the 7th house is the house of relationships. So most of your relationships will tend to go under transformations, and those transformations can really be very uncomfortable if you're not willing to let go. I mean, I don't think of myself really as somebody who's controlling. I mean, maybe I might be to a certain extent if I can see that things aren't, or nobody really wants to take control of the situation, then I step into a leadership role. But I mean, I have Gemini moon and I have my sun conjunct Uranus and Neptune, so I'm not really somebody that is controlling. However, when it comes to my relationships, I go through really a lot of deep transformations, and I can become paranoid, and whoever has Pluto in the 7th house, you definitely know what I'm talking about. But I digress. All that I was trying to say there is that in hindsight, here I am today standing in my full power, and it was honestly very painful. Truly very painful. Pluto just never makes things easy for us, because I think Pluto spends so much of time, like I said, it's such a subtle energy. Pluto spends so much time trying to bring things to your attention, but you always doubt that. Like I said, you're going to be instilled with fear, you're going to be instilled with doubt. You're probably going to be called paranoid. So I can understand the energy as far as it being quite scary, because who wants to deal with the reality that everything around them is not exactly as it seems? That's really what Pluto energy is about. So never really makes anything easy. So if we really want to get to know Pluto's effect, let's just start off with the facts. And first and foremost, it is here to heal. And of course, we all know healing is a very painful process. It is almost as tough as doing your shadow work, because your shadow work also just is never ending. And it's also the same thing as dealing with Chiron in your chart, which is also the healer in your chart. It's the wounded healer, which is a bit of an oxymoron, because how can you be wounded and still heal people? But obviously you become a healer if you deal with your wounds. And that's just kind of what I've gathered from that energy. But, like I said, maybe the experience of Pluto being a healer, or Pluto in itself being a healer, like I said, it's not the same as, or it's not as understanding as Virgo would be, because it just brings up a lot of things that are just uncomfortable and that cause discomfort. And also we need to remember that Pluto is about the things that we majority are in denial about. When those things take up your mental space, it's just like you're constantly, like I said, it's brought to your attention, it's brought to the light, so it's brought into your consciousness. So you will constantly be reminded of it when you wake up, when you fall asleep. It is a daily thing. Honestly, Pluto is very necessary, because we all need change. The only constant is change, and change isn't particularly nice. It's not comfortable. And comfort zones, are bliss to ignorant people, or rather those who still choose to live in some sort of bubble and who just don't want to face reality. So we do need a powerful force, a powerful source to bring about those changes. And, who better than Pluto for the job, right? It is honestly a force to be reckoned with, and we cannot take this away from Pluto, because essentially, like I said, Pluto helps us to get rid of a lot of things. We can get rid of addictions. We can get rid of people in our lives who are not really beneficial. Even if we were the type of people that were really timid, or we had a lot of Neptune energy, and it's kind of like you don't really have a lot of boundaries, Pluto coming around really does give you this ability to stand in your strength and just be like, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I don't have to take this, we're moving out of that, let's drop that, we're doing this now, and really commit to it. Because like I said, Pluto energy, I don't even think I mentioned it actually, Pluto is also very loyal. It's a very committed type of energy. So any changes that you make under this influence or under this transit will be permanent. There's nothing that's temporary with Pluto. Temporary doesn't exist in Pluto's universe. So we can also refer to the planet of Pluto as an awakening. And the reason why I say this is just due to the fact that Pluto, Scorpio, as well as the 8th house all deal with issues surrounding a crisis, extremes, or fear, anxiety, destruction. It also deals with growth and transformation. I don't know how many times I'm going to be saying these words, but I just want to emphasize that this is the energy that we are going to be dealing with. And I always wondered what would really be considered a transformation or a traumatic experience, as Pluto also rules over trauma. However, it's almost like everyday experiences really can be traumatic and cause irreversible change. The change can be good or bad depending on the mental state of the person and also their mental threshold. Because remember, we don't all have the same threshold. There's a lot of people that can take a lot, and then there's people that just, after one crisis, they just feel like throwing in the towel and being like, you know what, this is it, it's over, I can't do this anymore, and then everything is a mess from that point on. So like I said, the change can be good or bad depending on their mental state and the mental threshold of the individual. And these are all just experiences that leave you vulnerable and just exposed, and really make you face reality. And it also helps you to uncover your true, authentic self. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that as well, but just to further drill that into our brains and into our minds, that it is about transformation, irreversible change, major transformation. And I just want you to understand that when they mention transformation, it just means that you will go through some things that will be extremely painful, but you will come out of it much better, more powerful, and just ready to take on the world. You'll be able to commit a lot more to certain things that you may not have. Your intuition will be that much stronger because, as we know, Pluto is also a force that can just see through a lot of things. So, like I said, it's very... When people go through a Pluto transit, it's very unsettling because whatever is inauthentic will be removed, whether you're ready to let go of it or not. In order to get the best out of a Pluto transit, one would really need to master the wisdom of Pluto and be able to go with the flow. Honestly, that's all it is. Really be able to be Neptunian in nature and just allow the universe to do what it needs to do, or in this case, allow Pluto to do what it needs to do. And just try a good attempt at not controlling situations that are out of your control, being open to change and transformation in whichever way that may look like. So I also wanted to move on to the point that Pluto is a generational planet. So if you were born, let's say for example in 1993, then people who are within your age group, those are people born between 1981 and 1995, then you would all share Pluto in the sign of Scorpio. And those with this placement, for example, have experienced quite a lot because Pluto is in its sign. I suppose Pluto likes being in Scorpio because they understand each other. It makes sense. It's the ruling planet. It's almost like having a Saturn in Capricorn or Uranus in Aquarius. The energies are just that much similar because basically the planets would be in the sign of their rulership, if I can put it that way. So they've experienced quite a bit. I don't even want to say that though, because I am part of that generation. But no, honestly, okay, let me just explain. I think this is the generation that just sees everything that is wrong with society And most of the time, this generation is the generation that has a plan to fix it. And I think they're also just always preparing for the worst and crave power. But that power is one that is sustainable and one that is positive and not really greedy and, destructive and negative and wants to cause harm. It's not that type of power. These are really the people that were born in the midst of eras of transformation. We basically went from, being kids playing in the streets with our immediate friends to being indoors on social media. And those were really the changes that were integrated into society. We live in an era where issues pertaining to sex, to finances, to homosexuality, which were kept under wraps for the most part, are now coming to the surface and being exposed. A lot of people have to deal with the fact that they may be homophobic, or they may be homosexuals, or just having issues surrounding sex, because now it's become more evident that, sex sells a lot of the time. In order to push sales, in order to push a certain agenda, or in order to achieve something materialistically, you have to engage in some sexual behavior. I don't even need to explain that, because we have examples all over the show. You just need to, hop on over to YouTube and watch music videos, and you will see exactly what I mean. So a lot of those things that were kept under wraps, like talking about sex or being shown sex on TV, or the world really revolving around sex and money, because money is also another eighth house theme. So all of these things just basically coming to the surface, and all of these things becoming more important in this current generation. And we, as the generation of Pluto in Scorpio, we have had to deal with all of these transformations and integrations within our society. So we basically experienced a societal decay and a collapse in society, really, and we were gradually being built anew, and this new generation can now be passed on to I think it's Gen X, or is it Gen Z? I'm not even too sure, but those are basically the people that were born in the new millennium, so the 2000s, as a lot of people refer to them. We can now, as Pluto in Scorpio, experience the entire society being basically collapsing and going through a transformation. We can now pass on that transformation onto Sagittarius, Pluto in Sagittarius individuals. And Pluto in Sagittarius is just very liberating also, and I think questions everything. Hence, we've been seeing a lot of the newer generation becoming more successful quicker than the older generation, because they question everything, but also because the energy of Pluto and Sagittarius is being combined as well. I would like to akin it to a Jupiter and a Pluto situation, and we all know a Jupiter and a Pluto situation is like billionaire status. I think, I'm not too sure of Steve Jobs' partner, but whoever Steve Jobs' partner was, they together had in synastry an aspect of Jupiter and Pluto. And I mean, you can already see how they just changed the world, with just their ideas, with their technology, with their interface, with Apple. So I don't even need to go into that. We can already see it. Probably some of you are even using iPhones right now. So, these are just the themes of a Jupiter and Pluto, because Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So it expanding Pluto is just like expanding your resources. It's expanding money that people can borrow to you. It is expanding inheritances. It is expanding just everything, really. So we don't even need to go into that, but if you think about it, our generation was born when apartheid was coming to an end. So well, it was coming to its inevitable end, honestly. And now we're living in a democratic society that is also connected globally, and that being akin to Saturn being in Aquarius and us living in the age of Aquarius, which also is amazing because there's going to be new technology that's going to come out. There's going to be new ways of thinking. Is going to be just new, because we know Uranus energy is all about new. It's all about being different. It's all about being unique or finding unique ways to solve issues or solve problems. So as a generational planet, we have experienced, or we've heard of, experiences such as the war, recessions, or new governments, and even crises as a collective. It wasn't like an isolated situation. I think the only thing that is personal about this planet is where Pluto is from your chart, whether it's in your first house or all the way through to the 12th house, no matter where it is. When one works with healing or works through healing through Pluto, it just becomes easier to have that healing effect towards others around you. And as a generational planet, you may have gone through situations that enable you to guide and potentially counsel others, because you've already have the experience, you've already gotten the t-shirt, you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, yay. Now you can help somebody else who may be going through a similar situation. So with Pluto in my 7th house, I need to use my capacity for love to heal, basically. My capacity to bring out the best in people, to bring out the best changes in people, to allow people to be their authentic selves, to allow people to really deal with their inner demons, if I can put it that way. If you're hearing them dogs, please do forgive me. It is in the morning. I think it's like 5:30 in the morning right now. So yeah, the dogs are going quite crazy in my neighborhood, and it always happens at a time where I'm recording. It's either when I'm recording in the afternoons, or when I'm recording at night, or even recording in the mornings, that I always experience dogs barking. But I guess I'm just going to take it in a good way and believe that there is a positive thing about dogs barking in the background. But anyway, like I said, I need to use that energy to heal people, basically, because I'm able to do that. I'm able to be in a relationship with people, with even my friends, and I'm able to be like, no, friend, I don't think you're seeing it this way. Why don't you see it this way? And then I bring things to their consciousness, I bring things up to their attention, and then that's when they can really deal with certain issues that might be plaguing their life that they didn't even know were issues to begin with. And also, with Venus in Pisces, I am able to forgive others quite readily, rather quickly, even when they don't deserve it. I think that I'm also just, an empath, and I'm really just a healer, if I can put it that way, because I'm able to resonate really deeply and truly and genuinely and truly understand the struggles, the hurts that other people go through. And I think anybody with this placement will understand exactly what I'm saying. Anybody with a Mars in Cancer, anybody with a Pluto in Scorpio, anybody with a Venus in Pisces, all of those 3 planets in water would really just understand what it is that I'm talking about, really just using their intuition and their healing capabilities to heal others, especially those around them. So Pluto, in essence, is just a planet where we need to submit and really trust the process of what is actually happening, not trying to anticipate what is going to happen, and not try and think, oh my gosh, basically to not be riddled with any paranoia, and just realize that whatever might be happening, whatever changes are going to come from that, are going to be for the best. I've come to notice that Plutonian or Scorpio and 8th house dominant people experience a lot of paranoia, they experience a lot of fear, and that just really stems from fear. It really just stems from not wanting to lose the people around them. It really, because they understand that the only constant is change. So in the midst of that change, they don't want people to be a part of that. They don't want, because they're so committed, they're so loyal, they're very aware of the energy that they put towards people, of the commitment that they put towards people, of the secrets that they carry that eventually become burdens onto them. So there's a lot of investment that really goes into Scorpio's nature. They don't just befriend anybody. They don't just tell anybody their secrets. These are people that walk around with secrets that they'll probably never tell anyone. So imagine having a relationship with somebody where you're that close and it coming to an end just like that, and not even an end whereas it's amicable, because as we know, Pluto can be a bit, dramatic and painful. It is a thing where whatever relationship that you would have had at the time, it just comes to an end, and it's like we can't even go back to the way things were. We either transform and continue this relationship, or we just let bygones be bygones and just carry on with life and not even try and salvage this. Because a lot of the times, relationships that are Plutonian in nature, some of the times the transformations or the changes really are irreversible to the point where it's really hard to even sustain the relationship. So they are riddled with a lot of fear of losing people around them, and I suppose to me it's understandable, because I also don't like losing the relationships that I do have with people, and I tend to be stubborn. I have ascendant in Taurus, so I do tend to be really, really stubborn when it comes to changes. I don't want to lose people. I don't want to make the necessary changes sometimes, because I've put a lot of investment into my relationships, into my partnerships, into everything, and that takes time. And for me, sometimes it gets to a point where I'm like, now I have to start from scratch and learn other people from scratch and tell them my secrets and they tell them mine, and it's like, oh my gosh, what a process, instead of just keeping the people around you that you've known for years. But sometimes those people that you've known for the longest time are never really the people that you should be having around anyway. So I really do feel for Scorpio people, Pluto dominant people, 8th house dominant people, because they really do go through transformation almost on a daily. I mean, I can look at a moon in Scorpio who goes through the harshest emotions, who go through the harshest truths, who go to the most intense experiences, and how they always able to be just truthful with themselves and be like, you know what, the reality of the situation is 1, 2, 3, 4. The reality of the situation is etc, etc, etc. And that really helps them to stand in their power, because they've managed to deal with the fact that these are the facts. And once somebody has dealt with the facts and they can see the facts for what they are, and they're continuously working on becoming better or transforming, then there's nothing that you can tell those people. That's why a lot of people are intimidated by Plutonic 8th house and Scorpionic energy, because there's nothing that you can tell that energy. There's nothing really that can compete with that energy. If you've ever had an 8th house relationship, if you've ever had a relationship with a Scorpio, if you've ever had a relationship with somebody that is Plutonic in nature, you will definitely understand what it is that I'm talking about. And I think that is also contributing to the fact that they can be so jealous, because they are extremely loyal. It's the house of extremes, so it's either I'm very loyal to you, or you technically don't even exist in my world. So it is a very, very, very intense energy, and I think that's the one thing we need to appreciate about it. It's a very intense energy. If you're not into intensity, then it's best you let it go. But unfortunately, you will at some point have to deal with Pluto's energy and the type of change that it is, or the type of transformation that it is trying to bring about in your life, so that you can make the best decisions, so that you can become a better version of yourself. So in essence, the only thing that I think Plutonic people really want to do is just put their loved ones under their wing and just protect them, and keep checking up on them like every now and then. I know, of course, this sounds sadistic, but this is just the nature of Pluto. Like, it's the opposite of Taurus, and Taurus energy is very possessive, so they take it to the extremes. They are possessive. It's crazy. So it's almost like being a Pluto parent and just wanting to keep your kids canoodled and just cocooned in your home, and only allowing them to basically go out and experience the world for themselves once you have groomed them to a point where they understand the world through your eyes, is basically what it means, until they're able to go out into the world by the age of 30 probably, and then they're able to experience or even handle everything that the world has to offer. And that's just some people might call it overprotective, but for them it's more about protection more than anything, because they are aware of the cruelties and they are just aware of everything that's happening underneath the surface. They have been through so much, so they understand what people are capable of. And that's really all it is. That's why they're not trusting of people, because they know should anything become inconvenient or become convenient, then the behavior will change almost immediately. So, and I think all of this protection and all of this this possessiveness is all just really a sign of love and long-lasting loyalty. That's the best way that I can put it for somebody else to understand the nature of Pluto, the nature of Scorpio, the nature of the 8th house. I've already spoken about Scorpio energy. I've spoken now about Pluto. I'm definitely coming for 8th house energy, and I think we all need to understand what really the 8th house is about and what its intention is in our charts as well. But I hope you really enjoyed this. In my next video, I will be discussing, last but by no means least, the planet of time and karma, Saturn, and how that correlates to our birth chart. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Show me some love and subscribe to my channel if you'd like. Again, your time spent is much appreciated. Till next time, you know what you do. So keep doing what you do. Peace, love, and most of all, light. I'm out.